Should we press continue then?
Yes.
Oh, I guess it went.
And the live stream has started.
It is 6:30, but I'm gonna hold off a little bit. We're having some technical difficulties with one of our machines, so I'm not going to open up the meeting just yet.
Krista, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Can you get me that meeting ID, please?
Sure. I'm going to send it to you in chat because we are live.
Might.
Did anybody else decide to go to the? No. Did you sign me up or not? No.
Gotta stay.
If you didn't, nobody else is. I guess there was a couple. of things.
Okay, we're all set and ready to go here, so I'll call the meeting to order. Roll of call roll. Yeah, roll of call. Anyway, everybody's present. You were all mailed the minutes from the April 28th and May 11th meetings. Any additions, corrections, or what are your wishes on those minutes?
I'll move for approval.
Both sets?
Yeah.
Okay, a motion's been made to approve both sets, the April 28th and May 11th. Is there a second? Motion's been seconded. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. The minutes are done. Public comment? John, do you know of any public comment?
We had one public comment, I believe Tom Meyer is on. Would you like to comment, Tom?
You're talking on mute, Tom.
There we go. All right. Yeah. Wow, that was quick. I didn't know I'd be up that soon in the meeting. I'm out of town right now, but yeah, I'm assuming you're talking about the Lambs Creek Park. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah. So I live up in the Tainter area. And I went to the Tainter Township Board. I might get cut off. I'm really low on battery, but so I wanted to purchase a lot up in the development that was behind the town hall up there, and then went to their meeting and they were talking about some funding and obviously who's going to be responsible for it and the liability. So there's a lot of questions that kind of loomed in my head that I need to get after until one day my kid says, well, Dad, let's go to the swing park. That's what he calls it, Lambs Creek there, because that's all there is 4 swings for the entire upper Tainter area with a lot of children. So that's basically where I'm getting at with this call is there's no place for our children to associate, interact, exert energy, get off the social media and things of that nature. So I got looking at Lambs Creek, and I just think that we need to formulate a game plan. And I don't know if there's COVID money out there available to put towards it, or I don't even know what direction to head. So I guess that's my purpose for this meeting is to where do we go from here now that I'm interested in the community having something for these children.
Oh, it's Tom.
Tom Meyer.
Tom, are you still there?
Yeah, could you guys hear me?
Yeah, we heard you talk about the Lambs Creek Park and stuff. And so then this is just a public comment thing, so it isn't a dialogue back and forth. It's just, you know, people can just speak on whatever topic that they want to. And this was the topic that you wanted to speak on.
Okay.
So there is no dialogue and we obviously cannot act on it because it wasn't on the agenda. So it's
Sure.
just a format to voice the public opinion.
So Chuck,
Yeah,
so Tom had contacted me and I also brought it up in my written report to you guys. So, I mean, you know, just to get this out in the open. So that's why he was here for public comment to get it out there, what he's talking about. And then, you know, if we want to bring something up to discuss it more, we can do that, I guess.
okay. Okay, is there any other public comment by anybody else?
I did not receive any by email.
Okay, move on to the next one. Item 5, items placed at the request of the chair. There is none. So staff and recreation reports, fair board. Deb?
Trying to. You all received my report. I don't know if you have any questions on the information we presented. Spoke with the carnival today, make sure they're all on board. Forward, they are.
No, just get it closer.
That's probably why people can't hear. Closer yet. Sorry about that. Anyway, we're still planning moving ahead. As a state association, we did survey fairs across the state. 45 fairs responded to the survey. All but 2 of them that were very small fairs that were uncertain are either 190 or 80% sure that they're going to have a fair this year. So most health departments have indicated that they can go ahead. They consider a lot of the activities to be outdoors. And as people continue to get vaccinated, even though that has slowed, we're hoping by the time our fair hits at the end of July that conditions will even be greater than they are right now. So, anybody has questions?
Does anybody have any questions for Deb?
Question. Are we set to go forward with the fair or are we in limbo or?
I would say we're still in limbo.
I've just been communicating, you know, I didn't know, I said we needed to know by June 1st. So I'm assuming I would take action from this committee to go to board if it was going to get canceled. So I thought we were still moving ahead. But I know you guys haven't made a decision, but.
I thought it was the 15th.
Well, the first, you know, somewhere in between the first. and
Somewhere between, yeah. Okay,
Which would be after the next.
well, we'd have a special. Yeah.
We, you know, Red Cedar Racing, I helped or provided some input to their plan when they were working on that too. So as far as the grandstand and stuff, we would potentially use the same plan with the numbers.
Okay, any other questions? Okay. If not, we'll go to item B, facilities, parks, division, operations.
Hello, everyone. You received my written report, and I guess I don't have a lot to add other than that, to that, other than things are going day-to-day operations going well, working on work orders, You guys have been busy with the moving of the record storage. The house is all ready now for our offices to be moved into. Hopefully, next week or two, we should be able to get that accomplished. And then we'll move on from there. We'll keep working on the record storage move, get things situated where we want them, and keep going with stuff. You have should have applications tomorrow emailed to me for our seasonal grounds help. And then I can get a couple candidates out of there to do that. Otherwise, the guys have been busy mowing the grounds, and they've been going out and mowing the parks also a couple times to fill in. But been pretty busy. That's the only thing for projects and what's been going on. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to ask.
Scott, has Excel taken the utilities to that building you're moving into back here?
Yes, the utilities are in there. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, did you want to talk about the Lambs Creek thing now then, Scott, or?
Yeah, I put it in my report there, my written report. I was contacted by Tom with like he said, a concern at Lambs Creek Park about having some upgrades for children in the area. I guess my thoughts, what I've known from the past is that a lot of the playground equipment was removed from parks because of the county liability. So I wanted to find out from that. I haven't reached out to Nick yet on that. I know there are still some swings that are left in 22 Mile Ford Park, but I don't know of any slides or any other playground equipment that is still in any of the parks other than neighbors put some playground equipment, a slide and some swings into Chantney Park, like the treated wood framed swing set and sled. So that would be another concern is if that was why the county got rid of that stuff in the first place, then it would be a discussion about, well, we're not going to put it back in because of the huge liability. So I wanted to bring this up since Tom had contacted me and you know, he gave just about as much information in the public comment as what he's given me. Just looking for an upgrade to the park, give the kids something to do. And I think he's looking for a way to do something, or if the county is going to do it, or like he said, if there was some COVID money available, that would do something like that. So I just wanted to bring it up and let's get you guys' thoughts on it. If it's something that was we were going to proceed on, if the committee was going to proceed on it and go from there.
Okay, so, but you're waiting to hear back from Nick, is that, did I understand that correctly?
I know, Chuck, I have not reached out to Nick yet.
Oh,
That would be my next step, is reach out to Nick about the liability of it.
okay,
This
let's
is from
let's
what
do
I've-
that next, yeah.
Yeah, from what I understand is that's why the playground equipment was taken out, but that was hearsay stuff. I don't have any facts on that at this point.
Okay,
I would find out more on that.
okay, Don, you have a question?
I was just wondering, the city parks have a lot of playground equipment. I wonder how that would be different. Maybe we need to check with the city too and see how they handle that liability.
Yeah, I can reach out to Randy Heidi and find out
Yeah.
about that. As far as all the part, they handle the liability stuff with playground equipment. Definitely.
He was first. Mike was first.
Okay, Mike,
I guess my question would be, if we have parks, why don't we have any playground equipment in it? Oh, yeah, I like to see him move forward on finding out liability issues.
Yeah, I'll find out why stuff was removed. From what I remember, there used to be playground equipment at the rec park also. And like I said, the only thing I've ever heard is that playground equipment was taken out because of the liability issue. But that was just word of mouth that I heard.
okay,
I guess my question is, I'm not real familiar with this park. How large is this park Could we put a ball field in there?
Oh,
Could
no.
we put,
No,
Very small.
okay,
Boat landing and,
have a swing there. There is all that stuff there.
what about tetherball? No, but I'm saying a tetherball doesn't take up much space.
right.
well, until we get a legal opinion, that would be the
Right.
next step.
Yeah, I will find out from Nick. I'll get the legal part of it, so see if that's in fact why stuff was removed from some of the parks. Then I can get more information. I can let you know exactly how big the park is, what exactly is there, and go from there.
Okay,
Okay. Another question.
I know there's not enough parking spots for boat people. They park along the street.
Ron, can you repeat that question closer to your mic?
Okay, there's not enough parking for boats people, you know, when they go to that launch their boats and then they have their trailers. There's not too much parking for them.
No, there isn't. There's not a lot of parking there. Usually on opening weekend of fishing, they're parked along County Road G there. Because there's not a lot of parking.
So then you just take that swing set out and then make that parking lot bigger.
That fixes it, right?
No,
that fixes potential a little bit of parking issue, but it doesn't fix the issue that Tom brought up.
Right.
About equipment for the kids out there.
Okay, any other questions?
I just was gonna make a
Yep.
comment. When, way back, I think when they took out that equipment at the fairgrounds, there what used to be a slide and a merry-go-round and swings, and it was because of the insurance liability. That's what I was always told from previous people, because we get asked every once in a while, whatever happened to that stuff, you know, and where they go.
Sure. Well, then we'll
That would be a good idea to.
we'll get a legal opinion on that then.
Yep, I'll reach out to Nick.
Okay. Okay, projects? Any updates on that, Scott? Anything you wanna?
No, just like I said, we're working on moving the record storage building in. We probably got about half of the records and shelves moved in. Work on it when we can. And then, like I said, then within the next couple of weeks, we'll be moving our offices over to the house. And that's about where we're at right at the moment.
Okay. Next item, any other questions for Scott at this time? If not, we'll go to number 3, facilities fleet.
I talked to Jen from Enterprise here in the last 2 weeks. GM has halted production on their Malibus right now until July 1st. Couple things could happen. They could restart the line, or they could cancel the orders and go directly into 22 model years. So she is going to keep me updated on that. It sounds like Ford has stopped building the F-150s in Canada, and they're ready to pull the pin on F-150s here in the US. So it's kind of hit and miss with all automakers right now. High demands, low on parts. So stuff is either getting canceled or postponed right now. So our Malibus, potentially we won't know an answer until July. And then once she gives me a decision, I'll report back and decide if we're just going to cancel, keep our current ones, and then try it again for next year, or see what Enterprise recommends. So right now, demand is up a little bit on ours, with everybody kind of getting back to a normal routine. Starting next week, bunch more people, county employees, will report back to their work and to the buildings, which I'm sure then the vehicle use will continue to go up.
Okay. Any questions from anybody on that one? If not,
I'll
Jim.
ask a question.
Okay.
And the question I have is why are we specifically looking at Malibus? Is there something else that we could look at that would be available?
That's a possibility. She said that right now, total vehicles on the lots are down about 25 to 35% from last year. So just to find something on the lot is pretty rare, but no, that's something that we can definitely explore.
Something that might be a little bit more fuel efficient than a Malibu. I mean,
Hybrids.
hybrids, yes.
The current Malibus that we have, they're averaging anywhere from 42 to 45 miles to the gallon. So it's for the
So it will be,
price.
so it'll be hard to find something that's got better economy, fuel economy than a Malibu.
And for price, because we're typically between 21 and 23,000, we're getting these brand new. So when you take the fuel economy and the initial cost of the car, they're hard to beat. That's kind of why she pointed us in that direction, because for the initial cost, there's good resale and the fuel miles is pretty tremendous.
I don't think it would hurt to take a look around
No,
though.
no, we could definitely can explore that. I can give her a call and see what she recommends. Because it sounds like it's gonna probably be a good month or month and a half before we would have a decision anyway.
Right.
But all our cars that we have did not get very much mileage last year, so.
No, it was minimal.
So they're, you know, if we kept them another year,
I don't think there'd be any
It's
harm in that.
might be more
Yep.
economically feasible to do that than to
Yep.
even get
Ride
rid of
it
them
out
now.
one more year and then we'd have more equity into them and start from scratch. So
May even help on some budget shortcut issues somewhere else.
So I will reconvene with Jen and I'll get some answers, and then next month we should have a better handle on what our, a list of options, at least we can kick around and decide which direction we want to go.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, if not, then we'll move on to the facilities monthly financial reports.
Got the two financials, one's for the facility operations, one's for the park operations. Our budget through April, 860, we consumed about 445 of that. So we have a potential right now, and granted that a bunch of projects, is when John runs them, he divides the total budget divided by 12. So we have some of our bigger projects now that'll take place during the summer that'll peck away at that. But I think right now we're running very well on the facilities operations.
Okay, anybody have any questions for John on that? If not, we'll go on to energy.
I have Dave Plume here to give us a update from Eagle Point Solar there on the neighbors project and
Okay.
kind of where we're sitting as a county. So Dave, if you want to unmute, you and Kent are free to give us your presentation.
Okay. To start off with, thanks for inviting us back in here again. So Kent's going to help me out here is moving forward here when we move forward on this project. He's a little more numbers crunching guy than I am. So what we're trying to do is trying to establish where you're at on everything here, but we did start, we did get the information on the health center there. We'll show you what we're looking at on that project, and then try to figure out what we're looking on all the other ones here. So I think I can share my screen here. It looks like you gave me permission. Right. So what we're looking at here is, here's what we're looking at for the location of what John and I had been talking about on the location for the panels, and this would be for the green, gold, and blue health centers. And these are 100K systems each is what they are. As of right now, the XL Energy, the best dollar for, bang for the buck is 100. It's a net metering, and they allow you to go up to 100K system. So I know John, you and I talked about getting data, and you do have demand charges on. There's what we looked at on there, and they are charging you a demand charge based on 15-minute intervals. So they are collecting it, but they told you that they don't. So that's what we're trying to figure out. Because if we go into the report here. Oops, let me go back to here. And I'm just going to go into one of the reports here. You can see there's a demand charge on here and on your bills. And if we go down to the actual report here, you know, we're looking at the incentives here, but you have on-peak and off-peak demand even after the solar is put in, because we're only offsetting not even probably 10% of your bill. Okay.
And if you don't mind me just jumping in here, Dave, real quick. Dave was kind of sharing some of this information with me, and I just kind of wanted to, I guess, address the committee and find out a little bit more about what's driving the concept of moving to solar. I know Dave said that he's been working kind of on and off with the committee for a few years now. There was a number of different sites. I think he said 9 or 10 sites in addition to these 3 new ones. And I'm just curious if this was due to a movement towards sustainability. Is it a financial move trying to cut expenses wherever possible, or a combination of both, I guess? If you can share a little bit with me.
Basically, it's a combination of both as far as sustainability, and if we can help cut costs, well, then obviously we're looking at that too. So.
Okay. And would you say that one is driving it more than the other, or is it kind of 50-50? You're doing it for really both reasons equally?
Well, we're always looking to save money. But and here again, I mean, we're just like everybody else. We want to have the best of both worlds. So we're just looking into, is this a good way of use of the taxpayers' money, and the sustainability. I mean, we all want to get, if it makes sense, we should do it. So, and if it don't make sense, then we shouldn't do it. So that's why we're investigating.
Right. Well, yeah, and that's I think that's the right approach, is to really just dig in and figure out what makes sense and what doesn't make sense. And I think with you guys having 10 plus meters here, it might be a good idea to just dig down on each individual project and say, this one might make sense, maybe this one doesn't make sense, and really kind of focus in on the ones that are going to have that greatest return for the county. I know also David shared with me that in the past, we were looking at doing a PPA or an ESA for as far as funding this project. And then with all of the legal issues going on in Wisconsin right now, that got kind of put on hold. And then I think David mentioned that you guys had sold some property and there might be funds available for something like this if it makes sense. So I guess I wanted to learn a little bit about that side of things too. If the intent would be to make a cash purchase, or there's a potential for municipal leasing, which might be a way to kind of indirectly take advantage of the tax credits, which the county doesn't get to take advantage of, being a non-taxable entity. So I don't know if you can share a little bit about that with me.
I guess the leasing would probably be the most interesting to us right now, because like all counties, we're strapped for cash. So we would be open to all options and discussions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Don.
I guess one question would be, do you have any idea how the Public Service Commission is moving on this? As far as, alternate secondary investors?
I have not gotten an update in probably a few weeks. I know things were, they had brought a few different entities together to kind of to work through this whole thing, but to my knowledge, it hasn't really moved forward much. Dave, I don't know if you've gotten any update from Jim on that.
No, I haven't. It's been in limbo for a while. I haven't heard anything for about a month so on it.
And that's where, there's the potential for municipal leasing, and we work with a company. We've started working with a company, I should say, on municipal leasing options. And what I could do if there's again an interest here, we could strike up a conversation with them and have them get in contact with you and kind of drill down and find out really what would make the most sense. And just in a broad concept, the way the municipal lease is, it's similar to the third party funding in that it's a lease, but the bank or the leaseholder gets to take advantage of the tax credits so they can pass some savings along to the county and try to get a scenario where your lease payment is similar to what you're paying for your energy, so you're not seeing a big change in cash flow. And then you get this savings over time, and then at whether it be 5-year, 10-year, 15-year, at the end of that lease, there's a cash buyout, and then you take full ownership of that asset. So again, I think what probably makes the most sense is to figure out, of all of these meters, which ones are going to have the best economic impact to the county, and kind of start there. David mentioned the demand charges on the report, and Excel saying that they're not able to provide that 15-minute interval data. Well, like Dave said, they're billing you for it, so they've got to have that information somewhere. But what that information can do is it can kind of tell us when you're having these demand spikes and how much impact just solar in general will have on those demand spikes. So when we put these reports together without that information, we don't show any impact on the demand because we're not exactly sure when that's happening. So on these reports, you can see that demand line is the same pre-solar as it is post-solar. So with that interval data, we're able to find out what kind of impact we would have on that. So when we're looking at, 10 plus meters here, we would want to find out which meters have the least amount of demand charge to them, because we can have the greater impact on those, and then kind of work our way up. But I think, Dave, and correct me if I'm wrong, we've done a detailed site assessment on a number of these meters, and the 3 health centers here, we've just got the preliminary data, just kind of saying, hey, let's take a look at this. Does this thing make sense on paper?
Correct. Yeah, all these files here, John, if you remember, we did. Pardon me? If you recall, John, we did a lot of these here. Some of the other ones we've done here, where we had some plans for, it was like this building here. And you sold the building downtown, correct, if I recall?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. So this is one layout here for that one. And then this was the main highway shop here also. Okay. So that's what we're trying to figure out, are these going to be the more viable projects, or would the health centers be, which one's going to be the most viable? Otherwise, are all these other little shops that we did, because all these here, a lot of these we had done the post-site assessments on, so we've actually been up there and looked at them, got the full designs. The health center, we would still have to do a full, and maybe even have to relook at it, because all these panels and the equipment has changed a little bit since 2019. So
Don, do you have a question?
Yeah, I was just wondering, this municipal leasing kind of sounds like third-party financing in a way. How would Excel, would Excel fight that, do you think?
I don't believe so, because the way that, and I'll be honest, I don't have a ton of experience in the municipal leases, but I don't believe that it's the difference between a capital lease and an operational lease. So if it's a capital lease, you guys will technically own the asset. So it's not third-party funding in the general sense. It's more like taking a loan out for it. But through the municipal lease, when you take out just a general loan, and you're a non-taxable entity, nobody gets to take advantage of the tax credits. If you do a municipal lease, the financial institution actually gets to take advantage of the tax credits, and then they can pass that savings down through that lease. So I wouldn't anticipate that there would be an issue with that. But again, if the municipal leasing is something that we'd want to pursue, the first thing we would want to do is get our partner involved and have him get a little bit more familiar with the different projects, because just like a PPA, a municipal lease might work great on certain projects, and it might not really be a feasible thing on other projects. So, you know, if that's an avenue that we would want to pursue, we would want to get just in touch with them and kind of give them an overview of all of the projects we're looking at, find out if they believe that these are good candidates, and if so, then what we would want to do is have them get into a discussion with the county officials and talk about how this lease would be structured, and then kind of, you know, what that would look like from you know, from a financial standpoint from the county.
I do have a question, and maybe it kind of reiterates what Don was asking, I think, a little bit differently, and that is, have any of the utility companies that provide the electricity had any issues with people putting up these solar arrays? Because Excel, what he was referring to is Excel Energy is our service provider here.
Yeah, and in general, as far as building a solar array, the utilities typically are not going to have any issues with that. You know, that's not a problem. The problem becomes how it's financed, and that's where we're in the situation that we're in the state of Wisconsin, is that We Energy is fighting that third-party financing, saying, well, they can't do that because essentially the third-party financier becomes a utility. Then they've built a production facility out of solar panels and is selling the electricity off of it, which there's, I think, 28 states or 30 states that have already determined that that's not the case. A utility is defined as an entity that services many customers, and a PPA or an ESA is one customer. It's not multiple customers. So it's a fight that every state ends up going through at some point in time. One of the utilities will fight it, but I don't know of any state that has decided in favor of the utility. So I think what's happening here is the utility is assuming that if they keep this in the court long enough, the parties who are interested in doing it are going to get tired of spending the money, and then it'll just go away before a decision is made. I think that's kind of the hope from the utility standpoint. But as far as building an array, their utilities don't have an issue with building it. It's typically how if it's a third party ownership, where a third party finances it, owns it, and then sells the energy off of it.
It's kind of interesting. Organic Valley, maybe you're familiar with their operation. They're some entity, a financial entity, built the arrays. They sell it to a couple of local utilities, and the utilities sell it to Organic Valley, and that's how they got around it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So there's a lot of ways to skin the cat, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've done some of these already, like over in Sauk County at the law enforcement center and the health services over there. So that was prior to the We Energies backing out on theirs.
I have one question about the solar array itself, and not necessarily the location, but my concern more is with fencing for security reasons, so that they aren't vandalized.
Okay, that can be done. We've done other ones like in Johnson County, Iowa, where we've actually fenced them in.
So you've done other installations where you haven't fenced them in. Has vandalism been an issue?
Just one that I'm aware of. Yeah, just one that I've been aware of is all that was vandalized. That was by a couple kids.
Yeah, that was the one in Piasta, right?
Correct.
So what happened there was we had installed a solar array, a ground array at a child development center by community college. And shortly after it was installed, some kids saw these panels and they thought it'd be a cool idea to try to ride their bike down it. So they got their bikes up on it and they were trying to ride down it, and the bike went off the end of it, and it hit the corner of one of the panels and busted a panel. So from a vandalization standpoint, I think technically it is vandalization. I don't think the intent was to vandalize it. I think it was just to try to BMX it off of the solar panels, really.
So
here's a
then, another question as I'm thinking through this, I see you have fencing in this picture that you're showing us right now. Does there need to be signage that keeps people away because of the voltage issues?
Yeah, so the solar array itself, the inverters, all of those things have placards on them that indicate what they are. And so by law, those things all have to be labeled, and that's all part of the project. The fencing itself, we've done a number of installations with fences. We've done a number of them without fences. You know, some people like to have a fence just to keep people away from it. Other people, you know, it's just it's an array. It sits out there. You know, their concern is less if it's in an area where there's not a lot of people. You know, if we have these right in the middle of an area, you know, some of these are out by ballparks and things like that. And, you know, they're concerned that there's going to be kids running around. And if they don't have a fence, somebody could be messing around near the array. And, you know, like you were talking about earlier with the playground equipment, there's a certain amount of liability there if somebody falls and hits their head on it or something like that. So typically the fencing is really more tied to the liability than it is to keep vandals away. As you can see, this is not, you know, this is probably a 6-foot fence here that if somebody wanted to, they could jump over that fence pretty easily and get to it. But it's just, you know, it's really one of those things more to make it a little bit harder to get to.
Okay, any other questions at this time?
One of the other things I was just going to point out, since this is up in a field, you could put a short fence around it and then keep sheep in it to keep the grass out, keep the grass from growing underneath it too. That's been done in the area here, right down here, right across the river here near my house, that we did a project on that.
As funny as it sounds, it is an effective way to control the growth of the grass. And it's, you know, you don't have to have somebody out there mowing. You don't have to put rock down or anything. It was an interesting concept that worked pretty well.
Are each one of those 1,000K or is the whole thing 1,000K?
Each for 2 rows is 100K. It's not 1,000, 100K.
Okay.
So this one here goes to this building. These 2 here go to this building, and these 2 go to this building.
All right.
Why are we limiting it to 100K?
Because that's what the utility XL, they net meter, which at this point, until we get a better idea, if we can figure out how to reduce some of that demand charge. If we look at the report here, for instance, I'm just going to go down to the graph part here. You can see we're eliminating not much of your utility. If in other words, if this was more, if we can get the power up to here, because you have continuous usage, we could go bigger, because then so continuous usage means you have continual motors running, things like that, that you wouldn't even be sending any power back to XL. You would just be producing what you're using. Okay, think of motors constantly running. So in the health services center, maybe you have air conditioning, you got the oxygen tanks, everything's probably continuous running there for some of these people. If we can figure out what that level is, maybe we can go bigger than 100K with, which would still, maybe make better financial sense. We don't, but right now, this is what they do, net metering kilowatt for kilowatt. Anything above that, they're only going to give you wholesale.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Other questions?
So I guess, so Excel is billing us, but they're saying they're not billing us?
Dave, do I need to call Minneapolis and talk to somebody over there to, because obviously they are that are, doing their 15-minute intervals.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it might be best to call there and give them a shot. And I might even have the contact up there now, so.
Perfect. If you could send me that, because I talked to Ricky Kaiser here and he said there was no interval data. And now Dave has just showed us that they must be doing interval data or they're just charging us for the peak usage, which either way, there's a hole in their story.
Right, right.
Exactly. If they're not tracking your interval data, then they're just making up that $24,826 and they should start taking that off your bill.
Okay, so I guess we got some follow-up then, John?
Yep, I'll get hold of somebody in Minneapolis and we'll try to track down the interval data.
Okay,
Yeah, because I know that Excel Energy at one point in time was putting smart meters on a lot of the locations.
Yeah,
This kind of goes along with the smart metering.
okay. Next question.
Seems to me that we ought to try to be able to get more panels up to cover more than a third of it. Not really accomplishing a whole lot of financial savings or reaching the other goals if we can't get more panels up. How we
And
do
I think what Dave is talking about, Dave, if you want to put that chart back up. So Dave keeps referring to net metering, which I'm not sure if everybody on the committee is familiar with the term net metering, but the way that Excel works there is they will net meter, meaning if you produce more energy than you're consuming at any given time during the day, that overproduction goes back to Excel and they simply sell that to another customer, but they give you full retail credit for whatever kilowatt hours you send to them. And then when you start buying your power, you've built up some of that credit. Without having that interval data, we don't have any idea if you've got these big spikes, but some low areas where the array might be producing more than what you're consuming. Or if you've got a continuous load, if you've got a higher load, and we can simply install a solar array that the building is going to consume every kilowatt hour produced by that solar array, then we don't need to worry about that net meter limit. And so there's if it's that continuous load, we could build this thing much bigger and offset a higher percentage of your consumption and save more money. If we've got large spikes that are where we're getting that demand charge and these dips, then we want to be conscious of that net meter cap, because if we go above that, then all of a sudden whatever you send back to the utility goes back and you only get a couple of pennies for it, and you might be paying 12 cents for it, but you're selling it for 2. So then you start going upside down on the financials. So that's where it's kind of critical that we have that interval data, because we'll have a better idea of what we're looking at. If it's a continuous load, we can build this thing, up to that continuous load point, and you'll just consume every kilowatt hour that's produced.
So that blue line I just drew, we could probably maybe go up to that range possibly, but again, without that interval data, it would be just a guess.
Kent, if we're producing more with the panels than what we use and it goes back, is that just based on that 15-minute span that we're getting the lower return that they're paying us back, or is it for the whole day, or how bad do you get hit?
Yeah, so the overproduction, so anytime you would be overproducing any kilowatt hour above what you're consuming at any given time during the day, that would get pushed back and you would get full credit for that up to that 100 kilowatt. If we go above that, then you're only getting a couple of pennies. Where the interval data, that 15-minute data comes in, is this report that's showing these gray bars here, that's showing a month's worth of data. Each gray bar is, okay. So you've got 30 days within that gray bar. And within that day, you have, how many ever 15 minutes. So the way that the demand is typically billed is they look at these 15-minute increments, and whatever your highest demand spike is within a billing period, they're going to bill you for 75% of that demand spike, even if you don't use that energy the rest of the month. If it happens once, they're going to bill you against that. So what we're trying to find out with that interval data is, do we have these big demand spikes and we need to worry about where it's not spiking and we're producing way more than you're using? If we're above that 100 kilowatt, then all of a sudden now we run into where we're giving power away, basically. Or if we have a nice continuous load and we don't have these giant spikes, we can figure out, if you're at a whatever kilowatt level load, we can say, okay, let's build that up to that size. And now we know, based on that interval data, you're going to consume everything that's produced. And that's the best bang for your buck. Whatever's produced, you consume as soon as it's produced, and we're good to go. And then we don't have to worry about going over that size on the AC side and pushing anything back to the utility and not getting paid for it.
Okay,
What if you added more meters to the building, and instead of having 3 services for 3 buildings, you had two services for each building, so you had 6? Would that allow you to produce twice as much solar energy and keep your 100,000 per meter, or is it 100,000? How's that break up?
Yeah, it would be 100 kilowatt per meter. You would have to look at the expense of adding that additional meter, and depending on the transformer that's feeding it, that goes into the utility side of things as far as what it would cost to do that. So it's feasible that you could do that. The question becomes is, do you end up getting a big enough return to cover the cost of splitting those meters and ending up down the road with a net cash gain of that?
We can look at the viability of the.
I think we could get a
May
number.
not be a.
okay, so you're gonna check on that then too, John?
Yeah, this,
Yeah, Don.
this demand thing is kind of interesting because we have it at our church too. And I used to try to watch that thing a little bit because it shows up on the meter. There's two numbers, but it's almost impossible to tell when it hit that peak because it records it every 15 minutes, like he said. And whether they have that data or not, the only thing we had on our bill is we had two costs. One was our demand cost, and the other was our kilowatt hour cost. That's all we ever got from the power company. So we never knew when we hit that peak, or how often we hit it.
But again, you don't want to cover for the peak usage. You want to cover for the normal usage because your peaks are going to spike up and down. And it probably is not quite as bad for the healthcare center because we got geothermal. So the geothermal is helping with the cooling costs and also helping with the heating costs in the wintertime. But you still have fans and stuff that have to send it in. But that's why they said the 15-minute reading on demand, because you want to cover that, which covers the majority of your stuff. You don't want to cover it up to the peaks because that's when net metering kicks in. You're sending it, and when you're not at the peak, if you cover it up here and your demand is down here, you're sending this power back to Xcel Energy for them to use.
But as long as you can send it back at the proper price, you're okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's why you want to size it appropriately. Otherwise, you're losing money as your demand is down here and you're producing up here, and you're using that only when you hit peaks. You're sending all your money back and you're not getting much back in return.
And that's where if you have a nice continual load, you don't
Yeah.
have those spikes, then we can start inching our way up to what that continual load is, realizing you're going to eat up all of that energy and never push anything back. So then we don't worry about that net meter cap.
So, but I think we have a plan where we're gonna try and get to Excel Energy to get the 15-minute interval information so that we could better size this to what we need. Rather than just saying we're gonna do 100K, 100 kW kilowatt.
Right.
I think that would make sense on this preliminary side. That way we could go in, if we've got that interval data, we could go in, we could redo these reports kind of showing our recommended size at that point. If it is a higher continual load, we could redo these reports and take a look at them and dig down into the numbers a little bit more and see, do these things even look feasible on paper? And if they do, then like Dave said, the next step would be we would do a detailed site assessment. We would get all of the information that we need to put together, detailed designs. We would redo the report with final construction numbers, and we would have everything together then. But I think it makes sense to find that if we can get our hands on the interval data, that will tell the story that we need to determine if it's safe to build this above that 100 kilowatt.
Okay, any other questions? We've had a very good discussion, and we have some action items here we'll follow up on. So one last go around. Any other questions? Okay, thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate your input.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to address you guys today.
Okay, take care.
Thanks again.
Okay, next item, Corporation Council Staff Report. We have none. Next one, Environmental Services Department, Accessibility Wisconsin Tract Wheelchair Agreement Update. Mr. Colson, I assume that's you?
Yes, it is.
Could we pause for a second and make
just-
sure David unshares his screen, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
Are we ready?
Okay, Bob, you're on.
All right. Well, I've been before the group several times, and just getting permission to move ahead with the application for this all-terrain wheelchair. And we got notice a couple weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, that our application has been approved. And so they have an all-terrain wheelchair that's slated for Dunn County. What they're waiting on is a covered trailer that's coming that they don't have yet, and so they're not going to send everything over until they have all the equipment. And I had to postpone some of the training. So I'm working with, as you recall, the county will be working with the Rotary Club to do this, and the county's responsibilities are more administrative than most everything else, and providing a safe place to store the machinery and a place to charge it. And then Rotary would take care of checking it in, checking it out, and then on a monthly basis we would share information and about the usage and stuff, and then we'd make a report to AAW. And then there's also going to be a requirement for some some press releases, some advertising, so that people know that the machine is available and how to get to it. AAW will also provide both the county and the Rotary with a link to, they have the software and all the infrastructure to support checking it out, and so that would be a link that goes back to their system. We could certainly design our own checkout system, but it's already working, and it's been working for many other communities, and so we would just use their link. And there's an agreement that everyone would provide links to each other on their social media sites, so that AAW Dunn County would have a link on AAW social media sites, as would the Rotary Club, and then subsequently, for each of the other users, there would be a combined advertising of each person. So I had to postpone the training. It was scheduled for actually today, the initial training, and that would be between AAW, Rotary, and us, just kind of a kickoff meeting. And it would be it's all the meetings and all this stuff for this is going to be via Zoom, or we don't have to travel to Madison, which is where their headquarters is. But because of I had to get, there's a couple of projects I had to get done. One is the budget, so I was I had to finish my budget, so I had to cancel that training, but we will reschedule that on a time date that suits the the three players, us, Rotary, and AAW. AAW thinks that that they should get a trailer here. They're thinking probably maybe 4 to 6 weeks, and there's probably 3 to 4 weeks of actual training that goes into this, and so that us, the host and co-host, are ready to go when the equipment shows up. And then I will be attending Rotary's two Rotary meetings. So right now, the group that we're partnering with as a host is the Sunshine Club, the morning meeting club of Rotary, and there's also an afternoon club, a little bit smaller in membership, but they're still part of Rotary. And so the hosting is through Rotary, but specifically through the Sunshine Club. So I'll be there. I think it's on the 9th. We're going to try and get a Beaver Creek in Eau Claire. Beaver Creek Reserve has one of these machines, and are under the same program. So we're going to try and get one, check it out, and bring it to the Rotary meeting, just so that they could see how it works, let people use it, understand what it does, and then also maybe to spark a little bit more interest in, or keep the interest high at Rotary. And then I'll be at the Rotary's luncheon club on a Zoom meeting. I think it's the 2nd. It's next week, to kind of bring them up to speed, and also to kind of invite them as another partner or participant of Rotary, if they want to participate in this program. I have spoken with Facilities, John Swirsky, and we've talked about where this thing would be housed, so that A, it's secure, and B, there's power. And our last discussion, John was thinking that it would be maybe over at the old judicial. What's the name of that? It was not judicial. What's it called, John? CJC. Thank you. Yes, at the house in back of this building here, and depending on how things work out, maybe even inside the garage, so it's a little more secure. But regardless, over in that area where there's access to power, and it's a place to park it. So I think it's coming along. I think that I would have liked to have personally had it, up and running, by this time. But the fact, that we get it sometime this year is going to be great. It's not a machine that is weather dependent. Actually, AEW says that, that their highest usage is in the fall. For hunting season, and actually there's a lot of usage in the winter, because it's an all-terrain vehicle. You don't have to just use it when the sun is shining and it's warm outside. So I think that's good news. As soon as I get a little bit further ahead on my work schedule, then I'll reach back out to AEW. We'll be crafting some press releases, both between us and Rotary, so that we can get the word out, and then we'll just keep progressing from there. So, questions, comments?
Yeah, go ahead.
Just a thought. Is there anything that limits the person that's checking this out to where they take it?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope, they can take it. So,
So somebody could check it out, take it up the Gordon Minong area, use it, bring it back.
They could take it out and go to Glacier Park and come
Right.
back, you know? So yeah, no, it doesn't have to stay in Dunn County. And actually AAW, you know, their goal is to get people outside and to use these machines. And so there's a $50 deposit and we'll be asking people, you know, when they check it back in, if they'd like to donate that. Most people do donate it. You know, if the person brings it back and we determine that, you know, that they did some damage and it's substantial, you know, we'll see if we can't get them to contribute towards it. But AAW is on the hook for all the major maintenance of these things. So no, it's there for people to use however they see fit. It's just first come, first serve, because we only have one machine.
And I take it that any of the donated money that you were talking about then goes back to AEW. That's
Absolutely.
not
It goes
county
back.
money.
Yes, it goes back to them. So to help them to fund their program and maybe offset some of their costs. So
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, if not, thanks, Bob. Thanks for the update.
yep, I'll keep you in the loop as things progress. Thanks, everyone.
Okay, thank you. Item number 7, consideration for actions to be taken by the committee. There are none. Number 8, consideration of reports, resolutions, or ordinances to be recommended to the Dunn County Board of Facilities. By the Facilities Committee, there are none. Our next scheduled meeting date is June 23rd, 2021. Yes, question, yes.
Put on the agenda.
Revisit racing situation is out.
Follow up to see
Okay, follow up of racing.
whether the situation will change.
And
Well, it's all based on.
right, and it's my understanding this week it's going to be 75% again too. I thought KT sent out an email late this afternoon. So, sure, that can be on, yeah, follow up on racing.
Now, just so you know, that 75% number, that's for people that don't show a vaccine card. If they show
Correct.
a vaccine card,
Vaccine
it doesn't
card.
count towards the 75%. So
Right.
they could have 25% that show vaccine cards and 75% just show
Right.
up.
In
So
theory,
they could be, in theory, they could be at 100% capacity.
And the 100 that they get.
Hey, Chuck,
Yeah,
there is no racing this week. Just to
there's
let
no
you know.
racing this week.
This Friday night, there is no racing. They'll be back next weekend, next Friday.
Probably because of Memorial Day
Because
weekend.
of Memorial Day weekend, yes.
Oh, so,
Yep.
oh, okay.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, thanks for the update. I
Yep.
wasn't even,
And we don't know how it worked last week because they were rained out.
Yep, exactly.
good old rain. Okay, we will have that on the next agenda, okay. Okay, any other questions or discussion?
Well, do we have to do anything for the fair? I was a little,
I need to
Puzzled
follow up
on-
on that, and we may be calling a special meeting to address that.
would it have to come from this committee? Could that just come from executive? Because it would basically just acknowledging that we have to, I mean, it's a date that we can't change our mind with after, right? It's kind of a,
We rolled our contracts over. All of those vendors are planning on coming now this year because we got better
Right.
contracts with them, so we didn't. And I've had conversations with all of them. Talked about June, first part of June to let them know if something's changing, but I personally think we can keep everybody safe. I think enough people are vaccinating. I think the numbers are trending in the right direction. If you talk to other fairs and different things, our buildings are, a lot of them are open air barns. The rides are all open air. There's a fun house or whatever, I guess, when it's partially open, but I personally think we can move forward. I mean, the food booths or the food trailers are all, a lot of those are already out there, like Chippewa Valley Cheesesteak and Captain, they're already out there at different locations doing events, so they know what the protocols are for local things. Feeling and seeing.
And I've personally been to the Chippewa Valley Cheesesteak and they have good food, but everybody is doing a great job of, they go up and they order and it says then they have to wait. So they stand back and socially distant. And I mean, you don't even have to remind anybody.
No,
Everybody just does it now.
I think
we're
everybody's,
trained well.
yes,
We really
Yeah,
are.
we are.
I mean, if you stand in, Fleet Farm or any place, usually people are 6 feet apart, they're staying their distance.
That's my personal statement. I like that.
Yeah, I don't mind it. It's,
yeah.
So what are you suggesting? That,
Well, I think for the fair board and to make sure it doesn't change, later on, that it should probably be something coming from county board. I mean, that's just my thought. So either a special meeting or if we could just have executive bring it to county board, that would eliminate having a special meeting of your
Right.
committee.
I mean, of course, it's not on the agenda, so we can't.
Right, we can't do it tonight. But I think I'll be here tomorrow afternoon and I'll talk with administration if we could bring it from executive.
Okay.
But I think, it sounds like that was gonna be my question tonight. Is I was gonna ask, when's the last date you have to know for sure one way or the other? And I didn't realize it was so soon. But it makes sense that it
Yeah, we're the
is,
end-
so,
yeah, we're at the end of May,
because
so.
it's only middle of June is only a month away then or just a little over when it starts. I understand that, but
Okay, why don't you talk?
if we have to have a special meeting, I'll let you know.
Let me know and we'll call her quick.
Right,
While we were here, I sent KT another email just to kind of, just to confirm that. Does she still have any concerns or are we still moving forward? So,
Right.
yeah, back from her too, so.
Okay. So then, like I said, the next fully or regular scheduled meeting is June 23rd. Nothing else. We are adjourned. Thank you.